I'm dressed in black today because in the marketing world, we're mourning the loss of our dear partner and friend, Universal Analytics. Yes, we've officially entered the new era of GA4. Now, if you've left it kind of late to start learning about this switch, do not panic. Jeff Sauer and Julie Braid did an awesome webinar over at Semrush Academy the other day, and we've compiled the key things you need to know about this switch. Take it away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this presentation and discussion where we're going to talk about your last-minute GA4 survival guide. Jeff Sauer here, and I'm joined with my colleague, Julie Braid, and today we are going to be talking about GA4. Now, if you've been waiting until the absolute last minute to learn GA4, maybe you still log into your old Universal Analytics account and you haven't seen data for like 11 months, but you're still wondering what is GA4 all about. This is going to be the crash course that you're going to need to get started. And it's not just what we're going to be training you on here today and talking about, but it's also what we're going to be sharing with inside the browser of what you're working with. And then also we have resources to point in the direction of learning more as well. And so with that out of the way, I want to get into some housekeeping items. So the first thing is, this is only going to be as fun as our ability to answer your questions and our ability to work together. So make sure you use that question mark icon. It should be to the right of the presentation where you see the screen. It says questions to ask your questions. Now, depending on how many questions we have in here, we're going to be dedicating some time at the end to answering your questions and to hearing from you, because a lot of times, and both Julie and I agree on this one, is that it's not just what you learn, it's how you apply what you've learned, right? So you're going to be learning a lot here. We're going to be sharing with you some killer features in GA4. We're even going to be breaking news, something that isn't available in all accounts yet that we just discovered today. We're going to be sharing that with you. And when we go through that, you're going to be seeing these things. But I want to hear your questions, because once we answer your questions, once you can apply it to your own business, your own company, whatever you are working for, that's when we know this is something that you're going to retain as knowledge and you're going to be able to tackle the world of GA4. Okay. Now, the second piece of housekeeping that I want to share with you is I have 3 courses inside of the Semrush Academy. Okay, so and we're going to be dropping that link in there very shortly here so you can see them. But the 3 courses, the one that might be the most pertinent to you is GA4 for SEO. And the GA4 for SEO course is going to be the one that talks about the basics of GA4, but for people who work in search marketing as professionals. So we're going to be dropping that link into the chat for you very soon here, and you can join that. And then once you get in there, you can see my instructor profile, and you can see the other 2 courses that we have as well, because I love the courses we've produced with Semrush and in the Academy, and I want you to share that love as well. And each of those has a certificate of completion and a lot more to it as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the world that we're at now. So GA4. Now, I'd love to know how many of you have made the full conversion. How many of you love GA4? How many of you are standing on the sidelines, not really sure what to do with it yet? I'd like to know anything that you have to say or to tell us about your GA4 experience, because what you put into the chat or into the questions is ultimately going to be what gives us the real world examples that we can share with you. So I'd love to know what you think about this. Okay, so go ahead and put that into the questions area if you have any questions about it, and we'll go from there. Okay, now setting the tone here, let's talk about the difference between Universal Analytics and GA4. So I took this screenshot a while ago before Universal Analytics went away, but 85% of all websites had Universal Analytics on it at its peak. And that means that, and if you were to go to a website and you were to look at 39 or 37 websites, then 40 of that, or 37 websites out of 40 would have GA on it. And that number has changed a little bit with GA4, but it is widely known as the most well-adopted, well-used, and it is the industry standard for web analytics. Now, some of that has changed with GA4 for a few different reasons. One is that it's a little bit more difficult to check on the data in GA, or it's a little bit more difficult to confirm what has GA4. The other one is there's multiple ways to install this onto your site. So that might be the reason why. But basically what we're seeing is for GA4, if you looked at built with and you said how many people are using GA4 using the GA4 code, we're seeing about 50% of the top 10K and 100K websites, and of the top 1 million, a lot of them have not switched specifically to GA4. That doesn't mean that they don't have GA4 in place, but what it might mean is that they are not using the latest code. And so there are some stragglers in there. So when we talk about this as the last minute GA4 guide, this is truly, I think some of you are last minute. As I'm reading in the chat, some of you have been on it for a while. Randy's been on it for a while. Brianna's made the switch, but it's taken a lot to get used to. Michael has a GA4 account, but hasn't set it up. And so there's a lot of things that are going on here. Hopefully by the end of today, you're going to see the reason why we like GA4. And then also, frankly, Universal Analytics isn't coming back, right? It's been gone for 11 months now. So GA4 is a switch we need to make if we want to use the Google tool, which has always been the industry standard for web analytics tools. Okay. Now, most of this occurred last summer. So most of the switches happened, as you can see, last summer, meaning that people made the switch over in right around that deadline, which was July 1st. To move over, and once they stopped collecting data in Universal, we did have a spike there. Some things leveled off. Maybe some people didn't like it, but it is, that is the adoption rate of GA4. Now, why was it such a slow change? Well, it's because GA4 is different. It is fundamentally different than what you had in Universal Analytics. I like to say that with Universal Analytics, you could put a piece of code on your site. It would collect data, and a lot of that data led you in the direction of figuring out how your search performed, how much traffic was going to your site, if you set up conversions, what conversions were happening. There's all kinds of interesting things that could happen in Universal Analytics. Whereas you put the code of GA4 on your site, and you might not fully, some of the things are exactly the same with what happens with that code. Some things are a little bit more challenging or different that you might not know about. Okay, so. First of all, again, my Semrush course means that it doesn't have to be that hard, right? It doesn't have to be that hard. So you can take the course and learn from me about how to get GA4, the basics in place. We've had thousands and thousands of people go through and complete this, get their certificate, post it on LinkedIn, and just say, hey, GA4 used to be hard. It's a lot easier now that I understand it, okay? So regardless of where you're at now, I would highly recommend that you educate yourself as to how it works, because it will take some of the things that you don't like about it and turn them into positives or even strengths in your business. And Julie's going to show you a lot of these very soon here. Okay. Now, the reasons why I like GA4, and then I'm going to hand it over to Julie, is that one, it's a fresh start, and it's a one that you always needed. Now, if you're like me, you have data gaps that are unexplained, or you made some mistake a long time ago and you've had to live with it forever. Well, GA4 allows you to correct that mistake because you're getting a fresh start. So it's really nice that you have a fresh start with your data. Okay, so you don't have to do this anymore. GA4 is releasing things constantly. So I took this screenshot earlier this morning. They actually did a release today. So if you were to look at this page, and you would see that there's a release that happened today, one that happened yesterday. They are making constant updates to the GA4 product. Okay, so if you look at what's new in Google Analytics, you can see they're making changes constantly, all the time. It's a very well updated and up-to-date product, and they're making changes to make it not just better, not just to have parity with Universal Analytics, but to make it better. Now, here's some reasons why, if you're trying to convince your organization that this is necessary, or to say, hey, here are some positives. One is you have much better privacy controls when it comes to GA4. There's greater privacy controls that weren't in there in Universal. If I were to say there's one reason why Google had to move away from Universal Analytics and just scuttle the boat and start fresh, it's because Universal Analytics was a privacy nightmare. Universal Analytics was developed in a desktop era of the internet, pre-mobile, pre-everything. Basically, they stored a lot of stuff in cookies. There was a lot of data that was on Google's books and on Google's servers. And then when the GDPR came out, it was a problem. And there's a lot of problems that happen with the old Universal Analytics data. And Google wants to move us forward to the modern way of measuring things. And that's basically one of the big reasons why this is necessary. Because one, this allows you to be privacy first. And two is that you couldn't really undo the past with all that old data. The other thing that's great about GA4 is that you can align it with your company's strategy. So we have something at Data Driven called ACEs, and we've programmed and cleaned up and made GA4 match this strategy. So inside of the Semrush course, the GA4 for SEO course that we have, you're going to be able to see this ACEs template. You're going to be able to get your own version of it, and you can build out your company strategy and show that inside of GA4. So that's going to be really cool as well for you. Also, independent research. If you're like, hey, should I use this, or should I use something like Puic Pro, or should I use OWAX BI? We did this at Data Driven. We did our own research, and we recommended GA4 over all the others based on our scoring rubric. So we went through and did scores for over 40 different tools, and the one that came out on top was GA4. GA4 has some features in there like predictive analytics that they have that maybe you didn't have before. So they're adding new things with this new data model. They're able to do a lot more forward-looking analytics. They're able to use more data modeling and everything like that, which can have some positive benefits. Predictive analytics. There's data gap modeling, which can be, it's had some ups and downs over the years, but basically you can choose, do you want to blend your data gaps, and do you want to say, okay, I want as complete of data as possible? This is nice in a world where cookies have eliminated a lot of the things that we used to be able to track, and there's device fragmentation. So there's data gap modeling inside of GA4. You have monetization reports across different devices and across different monetization methods. It's not just e-commerce, it's how do we make money, which I think there are enough companies out there. There's a lot of companies that are saying, hey, we're not selling physical products, but we want to know and have reports on how does this website make us money. That's happening natively inside of GA4. You have attribution modeling that you can have in place. You can do attribution reports, which I find work really well. And it is world-class, the attribution modeling that Google Analytics 4 has. And it integrates beautifully with other Google products. And so if you're wondering, should I use GA4? Should I adopt it? Well, do you run ads? Then you pretty much need to. Do you want to have a backup of your data using something like BigQuery? Then GA4 is going to be the only one that you can do that for free. Do you want to connect to Search Console? We're on a Semrush webinar here. We're talking about Search Console. Yes, if you want that data, it's native here. You can also connect it to Semrush. I show how to do that inside of the course, right? Inside of my course at Semrush. But in addition to that, you want to have some clickstream data tied to it, and you can get that in GA4. So there's lots of awesome stuff that we can do with this. So with that out of the way, that's some of the benefits of what we have. Now I'm going to hand it over to Julie, and Julie's going to share her screen. And what she's going to do is she's going to show us exactly what it looks like inside of GA4 and give us a live demo. So Julie, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen sharing. And what we're going to walk through in this particular training is something that came up about a month or so ago when we're in a mastermind, and people, they're basically beginners, intermediate, and advanced users. And we ended up showing something that kind of blew the mind of everybody there. And even though that they had known about all these different parts and pieces, they didn't realize putting them together would basically really unlock Google Analytics 4. And I'm kind of seeing the chat. They're like not quite sure how to use it, and just like, not sure if it's really better. To be honest, I was very similar. I'm like, I didn't really want to use GA4. I started out teaching and using the old GA3 Universal Analytics. And so I kind of came into this kind of kicking and screaming of like, this one's not better, it sucks, I don't like it. However, once I kind of started using it and forcing myself to go into it to get answers to the questions I had, I really started unlocking what it is that needed to be unlocked. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is we are now here in our report section of Google Analytics. We're in a testing account, so this is all just kind of dummy data for us. And we are by default under report snapshot. What we want to go take a peek at is this little hidden thing called the library. But before we head up there, I want to show you kind of like more of these other reports of and how the library kind of comes into play. by default, you're going to have lifecycle and user kind of showing up in here. These are different things. They're called collections. And you might have gone into your acquisition report and you might say like, hey, yeah, I want to know how users are being acquired here. And so you come through here and you're like, well, I'm not sure exactly how to use this because I really want to I use source medium a lot. So you have to constantly go through here and change this to be source medium. This was one of my biggest irritants with inside GA4 because we were used to Universal Analytics and our source medium report, and we wanted to see certain things, and it was constantly having to change things, and it was annoying. What you can do, and maybe you saw this somewhere and you just didn't quite catch what it was saying, but we're going to enforce this right now. So we have this option to customize the report. And what you can do is over here where dimensions is you click on there and you can choose, you can see this one right here is showing as default. What we're going to do is click on our three little dots right here and say set as default. And just because it makes me feel better, I'm going to move it to the top, and we can even remove these here. And it's not changing anything right now because I haven't hit this magical apply button. And we can even go through and add things like if I want to also compare device category, I can now go through and apply. And now I can have a report with all of this here. And if I wanted to change my metric, like let's say we have our session key event right here. Thankfully, that one's automatically. That was another one that we constantly had to add. But let's say if there's something else, I could always add that in here too. And then what we're going to do next is save it, because this is a thing that some people don't realize they need to do. In order to see this again, they can save it. So you can choose the save option, and there's two things. You can save to current report or save as new report. Now, the way Google Analytics 4 works is if you save to current report, it is going to save it and make changes to the report that we were just looking at, the one that was default to the default channel grouping. Now, and that is changes for everybody, not just you, this particular profile, not just this profile. It is for everyone who has access to this view. So if you're an agency into a client's GA4, maybe you don't necessarily want to do that because there might be other agencies or your client inside of GA4. So you might want to create a new report. However, if it is your own GA4 and you have a little bit more authority in there, you can go save to the current report. Go for it, do that yourself. But for the sake of this example, we're going to save as a new report, and we're going to call this a better source medium report. There we go, a better source medium report. I'm naming it this way only so it's easy to find because we've taught this and everything so many times that this is, you'll see in just a moment, we have a lot of things back there and to make it very unique, but you would name it whatever it is that makes sense to you and your team or whoever is going to be using this report. So we're going to choose to save. And we come back to this screen, so we're using it and we're kind of going through and we're making changes. One of the cool things that you can do inside here is if you have events, like let's say we have a purchase event, that's a good one to have. We could go through and compare purchases in this test account by traffic source, or maybe there's something generate lead. That is the Google Analytics 4 version of a lead. You can go through and see that by traffic source as well. And then you can go through and again, change dates, all types of things, but we can't really change dates here. We have to go back out to where we were to get a little bit more usefulness out of it. So what we're going to do is hit the back button, and we're going to discard our changes because we don't want to keep it there. We want to just go through. So now we are back here. So we don't have our whole nav with us, but we can go through and change dates, which is perfectly fine. So, but what happened to our nav? We're in a report, in our better source medium report, and you'll understand why this report is kind of in no man's land in just a moment. But we're going to hit this reports button again. So let's say you come back the next day and you're like, I need my better source medium report. So you go to acquisition, you go to traffic acquisition, and you're like, well, crap, this is the stuff that I don't want to do. I don't want to have to go fix it again. But your better source medium report is actually in your library. All right, click on that. And the reason that we didn't really see a nav or anything over here is because we haven't put it in a collection yet. And so remember, we said lifecycle is a collection, user is a collection, and we even have this other collection that you might be seeing in yours. It's called business objectives. We're not seeing it there because this one says not published and this one says published to all. And we can now say publish. And if you're wondering what the publish to all means, there are some other features inside of Google 360 where you can have other options. I hope they eventually make that option to us, but that's just why you see publish to all. But it used to just say published. But now business objectives is here, so you have this. Honestly, if you are not as comfortable with the, if you've been in GA4 for a while and didn't really care for the lifecycle reports, the business objective ones are a lot easier to understand what is what. I feel like they use more common terms, and honestly, they're the exact same reports, just different names. So if you like business objectives, you can go through here and unpublish lifecycle, and ta-da, it's going to be easier to get through. Just using easier names. But what do we do with our better source medium report? We have a couple options. We can add it into our business objectives, or we can go through and you create, technically I already have too many of these things, so I'm going to delete this because we've taught this so many times, and delete this because I did that one about an hour ago. So what we're going to do is create a new collection, or we could go ahead and add it to over here if we wanted to edit that. But we're going to create a new one because let's say we're an agency and we're going to have lots of different types of reports we want to keep an eye on, and we want them all together. So we're going to choose this option here, and we're going to name our collection, and we're going to say XYZ agency, and then our type of report. Let's say this is going to be product ABC, and we're going to apply. So why are you choosing that? What I started doing with some of our clients, they have different product lines. And so this topic would be product line 1, product line 2, and then I keep going through, and they have different reports for those different products. So as we're testing things and things are moving really fast, they can come in here and see what's happening, and because they like to know what's happening over the weekend. They have reports that they can use, and that's like until we get maybe a Looker Studio dashboard or something done and ready for them. So this is a great intermediate type of thing. So what we're then going to do is look for the report that we're looking for is the Better Source Medium report. And ta-da, we have, and that's the reason why we named it that way, so it's easy to find. And we're going to choose Save. And we're going to hit our back button now. And what we can see over here with our XYZ agency is the reason we're not seeing it over here is because we have not published it yet. So all we have to do is click on our dots and press Publish. And now we have our report that is set up the way we want it to. And we can come in here and customize this report. We can go to the metrics, and let's say we don't really care about engaged sessions per user, or we don't care about event count, but we want key events or whatever it is. And we can go ahead and apply. And our next option here is to save. And what we want to do in this case is save changes to current report, meaning saving to a Better Source Medium report. And that way we have all there, and it's saying, hey, you sure? We're like, yep, we're sure we want to do that. And then we have to hit the back button here. And so now, as you can see, we kind of got rid of some of those extra things if we didn't want to have to horizontally scroll, and we have that. Now, something else you can do inside of Google Analytics 4 that I feel is also overlooked is this section of exploration. So reports, as we mentioned, are visible to everybody who has access to the property. So, if this any other agency that comes in is going to see your own reports, and you're going to be able to see their reports if they create their own collection too. But explorations are only visible to whoever it is and can only be edited by whoever it is here. And there is one little slight caveat, but we'll get to that whenever we're ready. So what you can do is you can create a blank exploration, and Jeff's course will walk you through this in a ton more detail. So we're just going to kind of give a big crash course of how this can be extremely useful. And we're going to switch this over to funnel exploration. And then our next step is to fill out our steps here. And what I'm about to show you can be done no matter how you have implemented Google Analytics 4. So if you are just using the G tag and nothing at all else, and you don't have ecom set up, you don't have anything else set up besides the G tag, and you're just sending page views and all the default stuff, this will work for you. If you're using Google Tag Manager, there are options to make this even insanely more useful for you. And again, Jeff talks about that in a course, and there's lots of other material out that for you, but we're going to take it down to everybody. We're going to be super inclusive right now, so everyone has an opportunity to do this. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at something called page location. And that is this right here. And so page location, it comes across with the page view event. So I'm not going to get into the details. That's part of the course. That's a little bit nerdy, but just know this thing comes across with every event. And so that's what we're looking for. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to grab some information here. We'll just grab the URL. I'm copying and pasting from one screen to the next. And I encourage you to always use the contains. And if anyone's tried to use regex inside of Google Analytics 4 and failed, I encourage you to use ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT, figure this out, regex for GA4, like tell it regex for GA4, and you'll get a better result because it is much more strict. So for those of you that are more technical and then try to do that and hit a roadblock, that's a pro tip for you. So we have the first step. Then let's go ahead and create our second step, which again is another page location. And we're going to go a little bit faster here for the sake of time because I want to make sure that you get everything that we need out of this. And so page location. And by the way, once you kind of know how to do this, you can have the thing that I'm about to show you done in minutes. And I know it's going to be like really help you unlock what it is you're trying to do inside of GA4 so you can see the user journeys. So we're going to go again, page location. And side note, I'm super proud of myself for not messing that up while I was talking. So usually I can't type and talk at the same time. So now we have all of our different steps in here, and we're going to go ahead and press apply. And now we have this magical thing that is looking at this particular user journey for the last 28 days. We can go ahead and change our date range and all that stuff we want, but I want to go ahead and zoom in a little bit more so you can see what it is we're looking at with our all these different numbers here. So what we have first is this number right here that I want to point out to you. This number in this column is the number of people that started the journey that got to that step. So 115 people got to step 2, and that's 35% of the ones that started. And then of the second step, it is going here to, it's only 19 users. And so you might be like, well, what is these different steps? Like, let's kind of put this into perspective. So let's go ahead and check it out. I want to just show you super fast. We're coming in. And so it is basically a simple user journey of them seeing a page, going to a thank you page, and then going to a cart and seeing another thank you page. Super simple. So, but how do we explain that inside of our user journey? Let's fix that because all we're seeing is step, 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 step. Let's click on our edit and see what we can do. We have these names. So we can call this, I'm just going to call this TB for toolbox. I'm going to say offer page. And then we can call this one TBTY page, which is also another offer. And then this one is the cart page. That's easy enough. And then this one is a TY/upsell page, just to keep it simple. So now we can customize exactly what it is that we're telling the user what our steps are, which is really nice to be able to kind of customize that piece. Now this makes a whole lot more sense, doesn't it? So we have 35% of the users that converted from the opt-in, that's just a free offer. And then of the 321 of the total, about 6% got to the cart, and also of the total, almost 2% purchased that Tripwire offer. Now, what are these numbers over here? Well, these are the completion rates for the step. So obviously step 1 is the completion rate of the overall. So these two numbers are going to match. And then, but if you're wondering of the offer page, this thank you page / offer page, how many got to the cart, that is 16.52%. So all the numbers are here that you need. Then the cart to the purchase is the cart conversion rate is about 31%. Or if you like cart abandonment rates, it's right over here. So you have all the numbers that you need to be able to make a decision. Or do you? One of the things that is missing here is something that, and it's a phrase that I like to say, is WTF. It's what we use for dashboarding and reporting, and it stands for where's the forecast? Because if as you go through and are familiar enough with funnels, especially for those of you that are doing ads or anything like that, you probably already know where you should land, and you might be kind of looking at this and be like, yeah, you kind of have to think through it a little bit more of like where it is that you should be improving or whatnot, but it's not super clear and you have to think. Well, let's make it so we don't have to think so much. Let's go ahead and hit up that little button right there, and let's add in something here. We're going to type in here, say forecast, and in this case, this is the conversion rate from step 1 to step 2. So this is a regular opt-in conversion rate. So we're going to say 30 to 40%, and that's what we're going to say for here. And if it was really warm traffic, it might be a little bit higher. Now, the next conversion rate is basically an offer page to a cart. And in this case, the offer is pretty low ticket. So I'm going to kind of treat it like a regular offer page. And so we can say 8 to 12%. Maybe if it was a higher product or something that takes, higher price product, I might make it a little bit lower. And so we can kind of adjust as we need to. Then for this particular step, for a cart conversion rate, we're going to go, let's say 40 to 50%. We're going to say we're going to have that cart conversion rate of 40 to 50%. So the abandonment rate would be 50 to 60. So if you're kind of thinking reverse. So now the reason we did that, we're going to go ahead and press apply. The reason we did that is because now it is super easy for us to see these conversion rates, to be able to kind of compare the numbers that we're seeing with the completion rates, that we can go through and see that, to be able to kind of compare with those things. The other amazing, beautiful thing with this kind of report is we can compare with your different traffic sources. So we can click on our dimensions. And again, this is part of your course. So that's why I'm going a little bit faster, because it's something that you probably have already seen, but you didn't realize how useful and incredible this is to be able to use. So we're just choosing source, medium, and campaign for the moment. And then we're going to go ahead and just see what it is, what happens when we choose to break down. We're going to click on this little option, and we're going to say break it down by session source. Now, you are only looking at the top 5. You can expand it up to 15. And in this case, I'm actually going to zoom back out so we can see everything at once. And now this is where you can very easily see the different steps and the different conversion rates for these different steps by their traffic source. In this case, source, and we can always flip it out to medium or campaign, device, all the things, whatever it is you have here, you can break it down by and very easily see what's going on. We use this all the freaking time for our clients. Like if they have a launch or they have something going on, or even if we have dashboards inside of Looker Studio, incredible dashboards inside of Looker Studio, and let's say they launch something really fast, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we're building out really fast, and this is what we're sharing with our clients and saying like, hey, look like your Google traffic is doing fantastic, but maybe your Facebook traffic traffic isn't doing quite so well. And when I break that down even farther, it looks like it's this ad or this whatever it is that is not converting quite as well as this type of traffic. So let's change up the ads or whatever it is, whatever action that we can take. We're able to do that super clearly, super quickly, because of being able to break it down this way and very easily being able to see this. So remember we talked about how reports were the thing that everyone could see, and we mentioned exploration. So this is the one we just created because it's this time right here, my local time. And explorations can only be viewed by whoever created them. This is the account that created them. But you do have, this is the caveat I mentioned, you do have the ability to share, but you can only put it in read-only mode, meaning whoever is the person coming in here cannot change the date. They cannot change the breakdown. They cannot do anything fun or exciting, and they cannot do any of this fun stuff here. So Google eventually came out with a super amazing, super cool thing that you can do, which is this: save as a report in the library. And because you were paying attention a while ago and know what the library is, you know what that means. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this little bad boy. And what we're going to call this is another amazing report. And again, I'm using those fun names because I have a lot of them. So we're going to click on this option to view report in library, and it takes us right here. If we totally forgot where the library was, I'll show you how to get there again. Remember, you go to reports, and then it's at the very bottom down here. And then we see our another amazing report here. And let's go ahead and add it over. Remember our collection for product ABC. We're going to hit our little edit button here. And we're going to type in the word amazing because that was the thing that was very unique. And here it is. And all we have to do is save, but it's going to say, do you want to save changes to current collection or save as a new collection? And in this case, because I want all of my, let's say I'm agency or XYZ agency, I want them all together. So I'm going to save to current collection, which you have so many options to make this so customizable, which is just mind blowing. And I no need to republish or anything like that. So as soon as I added it there, it's there. So now looky here, everybody who has access to this property can go through and see this and be able to have fun and play with it as well. And so you can go through and go and change it to source medium here and campaign here, and we could go through again and compare. I can say just show me, if I go to my sources and I say just show me Google and just show me that. Again, I can filter and see everything that's happening here. I can change my dates. I can choose to email myself or share the link and then go through there. With other reports, you can email, but you can download. You can do all kinds of things with here. Now, one of the things that happened today that is not showing up on this particular report, but give me a second to unhide to publish this one, and I'm going to show it because it's something that is only on some reports and not others. And this is the exact same freaking thing that we just did, and I don't know why it's not there. So I'm going to come to this one and show you amazing report. This is what I want you to pay attention to. There's no pencil over here. I come back to the one, I did another presentation this morning, and this happened during the presentation. It showed up, and I did not address it. So everyone here that live is getting to see this first before everyone else, is this thing right here. Because normally what you would have to do is go back to the exploration. I'm going to hit the back button real quick. You would have to go back to the exploration, add whatever it is, like say we forgot to do in this one, we forgot to do device category. Let's say we forgot to do add content or term. Let's say in this case, we don't have term. We'd have to go back there, add it in, replace the library. It's kind of a hassle. But now we have this little guy right here, and we can go through and say add a dimension. Let's say term and session manual term, and I'm going to apply. I'm going to save to current report because we know what that means. And press save, and ta-da, and we come back, and we have, because it's in our already in a collection, we have our nav here, And ta-da, now we can do that too. So again, Google has not published it. It is nowhere. LinkedIn has not blown up about it just yet, but that is like a big game changer because it saves so much time. But if you notice here, look at our forecast. How freaking easy is it to see where it is we need to optimize? Okay, and looking at this, and so for our cart conversion rate from cart to this purchase piece, it is saying we're at 31%, but we're saying we need to be between 40 and 50%. So immediately, whoever came to this report be like, well, there's your problem. Let's go optimize this. Let's break it down by whatever it is we want to break it down by. Let's see what it's doing with different device category. And in this case, let's see what mobile's doing. Is mobile the problem? Let's find out. And it's like, oh, nope, mobile's converting just freaking fine. Well, let's go to desktop. Obviously, it's teeny tiny numbers. I know that. But let's go to desktop. And we can see, oh, it's the desktop. Desktop versions is not converting the way we want to. Then I would go to a tool like maybe Microsoft Clarity and then kind of investigate a little bit more and possibly, also in here, see the different traffic sources and all that. I could go on and on and on, but I want to make sure we get to our questions. So holy moly. Jeff, what kind of questions do we have?
Yeah, we got a lot. Two that we have pinned that we want to go through. I have a question for you, and that is there a place that you teach things like the forecast, what percentage of people you want there for cart, thank you page, and so on? Is that something that you teach?
That is something that we've taught. There are some free things out on the YouTubes. Let me see, and I know we have it in our courses and we have a tool in our courses. Let me see if that's part of the toolbox that we just were looking at. Let me see if that's something in there, and then while we go to the next question.
Yeah, perfect. And so while you're looking for that, because there's a free toolbox at measurementmarketing.io that does teach a lot of this stuff. So if anybody likes what they see on the screen, I think that'd be a really good resource to check out. Okay, so Amy says, I'm curious about how to transition stakeholders from old performance metrics to the metrics published by GA4, i.e. bounce rate. So I'll start with that, and then Julie, you can weigh in if you'd like. So bounce rate, it is present in GA4. It wasn't in the initial release, but it's there now. I've never been a big fan of bounce rate for many reasons, but ultimately it's I think that it means that we just don't have data. And so like not having data is not really that insightful, or it just means that somebody left the site. But I would also ask, bounce rate's been gone from Universal for a while, for 11 months now. We haven't been able to use it, Universal. So how have you been presenting to people? Like, what do you tell them? Because there's been a month where stakeholders haven't seen what they've had previously. So how would you handle that conversation with them? I think that those conversations would have already been had. But I personally, the way that I do it is I try to educate them as to why there's something better. So it's not like, hey, I'm getting rid of bounce rate for you. It's like, this is a better one. This is a better indicator for you of performance, which it could be any of the numbers that Julie's shown you on screen. It could be a bunch of different items on there. Anything that you want to add to that, Julie?
No, that is correct. And we just kind of would educate, because I think that a lot of times was like, users versus sessions and stuff like, why are we now using sessions instead of users? But it is helping them understand the useful truth and what you can take action on. Some of these are vanity metrics. And so, and what they can actually take action on. And so, yeah, that's what we focus on, is helping them see the usefulness of the other ones.
Yeah. Josh says, if we updated GA4 to be domain wide, meaning that you added the code on the site in addition to having the Universal Analytics code staying on there, are there any negative side effects from accidentally leaving the old GA4 code snippets on the pages? Ultimately, there's about 40% of the internet still has Universal on there that never took it off. So I don't think that you'd be penalized. I mean, there's other things that Google can penalize you for. I wouldn't be concerned about that. Should you remove the old code? Yeah, because like, what's it doing for you? But basically, the old Google Analytics, the Universal Analytics code, it either got converted and the behind the scenes to being a GA4 code. So that would be a challenge for you if you have GA4 on there and the Universal, and Google duplicates it. Basically, you have two GA4 properties now. One of them is a little bit inferior because it's not the native code. And the other thing is just clean up your tracks is what I would say. It's not going to go anywhere. But as far as I understand, Google just ignores any UTM hits, anything that happened, or not UTM, but any UA hits that happen. They just ignore it.
Very good. And I'm looking for the conversion rate thing that we have, but I will make sure that everyone has it. I'm not sure how, because we got like about a minute left, but we'll figure out.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll post it on LinkedIn. I'll post a screenshot of what we use on LinkedIn, and so that way people can find it.
Awesome. And then Amy said that she's using HubSpot analytics as well. So so I would look at GA4 as a complement to what you're doing. There's definitely some things that HubSpot can't do that this can allow you to do, but look at it as a complementary. Now we have to end very soon here. So Sarah says, can you please explain the differences in the 3 options available at setup? I'm struggling with understanding the differences. So I think this is, which code do you use between the G tag or the Google tag, the installing with Tag Manager, and it's how you get the code on there. So ultimately, it depends on whether you're going to be using the code for other purposes or if you're just seeing it being like a one-time thing. If you're just installing only Google Analytics, you can just use the main code. If you might want to track other things, which other things meaning like scrolls, extra event tracking. If you want to do any customization, custom dimensions, then I would strongly consider using Tag Manager as the way that you do it, because it's a lot more, it will grow with you a lot more. So of the 3 options, the one that we highly recommend is Google Tag Manager. If we had more time, I would show you what the options look like, but that's the short answer for you. And I think that we're over time now. So if you have questions, please do connect with Julie and I on LinkedIn, or share your results from taking the Semrush course that we recommended to you on your LinkedIn. Julie's going to be doing a post of what she just talked about as well. So make sure you give her a follow, and love to hear from you, any feedback you have. And this is just the beginning. So if you're into GA4, I highly recommend that you utilize the resources we have out there, as well as the resources that are provided to you via Semrush on the Academy as well. So thanks everybody for your time today. It was awesome. And we will look forward to hearing from you and talking to you very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff and Julie. If you're still feeling a little bit nervous about the switch from Universal Analytics to GA4, you can check out the full 40-minute webinar from Jeff and Julie at Semrush Academy via the link below. By the way, Jeff also has a whole course on GA4 for SEO. I also added the link below. Hasta pronto.